Ever heard any good news coming from the Russian Space Agency? No, we've not been hearing much in the news about them. The reason might be that Russia might not be delivering on its space program. Their recent attempt at expansion in space did not go as planned. The accident brought on a lot of questions for the country. In today's video, we'll be delving into what went down at the Russian space station and what that means for the country's space program. So sit back and grab some popcorn because you're in for quite the treat. However, before we get into it, make sure you've subscribed to our channel and turn on post notifications. After all, where else would you get information like this? With that done, let's move on. After a very long wait, Russia finally launched Nauka, a space station into space. However, things didn't go as planned for Roscosmos. They went horribly wrong, even causing the Russian officials to hide their faces. On July 21st, Russia launched their baby on a Proton M rocket. The 8-day journey had Russian engineers biting their nails. Years of effort were finally coming alive. Initially, the launch looked good as the module separated from the rocket's upper stage 9.5 minutes after launch without a hitch. According to reports from both Roscosmos and NASA, the craft also deployed its solar arrays and navigational antennas. Roscosmos later reported that the module suffered several problems after reaching orbit. Some propulsion and communication issues popped up when the module reached space. Furthermore, the engineer could not confirm whether an antenna and docking target deployed correctly. At this point, little could be said about whether these problems would affect docking. Thankfully, after a journey of 8 days, Nauka docked successfully at the ISS, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. However, things started to look a little shaky when the module's thrusters turned on for no reason. The firing of the thrusters caused the space station to tilt from its typical position. We could see the orbit showing a blizzard of flakes outside the station in the live broadcast. With the picture looking like that and $100 billion on the line, no doubt tensions were high. Up there, the module was doing somersaults, and down here we had Russian engineers scrambling their heads. They needed to get a handle on the situation fast, otherwise they risked losing their precious project. After 45 minutes of effort, things calmed down. Good thing the fuel ran down, and who knows how long engineers would have to sit on the edge of their seats. At first, they could not understand what went wrong, but after a couple of days, Roscosmos published a statement detailing the cause of the incident. According to them, a short-term software failure caused the direct command to be mistakenly implemented. Under the command, the module's engines were turned on for withdrawal, which led to modifying the orientation of the complex as a whole. However, now the issue is fixed and the station is in normal orientation. The Russian cargo ship Progress 78 and Russian-sized the service module could counteract the misfire, and nothing too wrong happened. Before the whole debacle went down, cosmonauts Oleg Novitsky and Peter Dubrov were busy opening the hatches between the Nauka and the rest of the station. The crew had resumed balancing the pressure in the Nauka module. The total volume of the space module is 70 cubic meters, so that they will be used for quite a while. In response to the loss of altitude incident with Nauka, NASA has canceled the scheduled astronaut activities and postponed the launch of Boeing's uncrewed Starliner test flight OFT-2. So what happened to the Great Kremlin space program? It seems like they're a bit too caught up in passing around blame instead of taking responsibility and improving. Russia and its people have a history of overhyping their success. However, they waste no time pointing fingers at their long rival, the USA, when things go weary. With the Nauka incident, we gotta see something similar. In a post-docking interview on V, Director of Roscosmos Rogozin blamed the Ukrainian built-in bellows for the module's minor incident. There is some truth to the statement, since Nauka has a long history of embarrassing technical problems. Even in testing phases in the 2010s, engineers found severe contamination in the module critical propulsion system. According to speculations, it was likely the work of workers who dismantled it mistakenly. We guess that's bound to happen when you're constantly changing contractors. Moreover, cosmonauts had quite an embarrassing situation on hand just a few days before launch. They posted a picture of the module on the internet. However, people were quick to point out the lack of thermal blankets on critical flight control sensors. This was a huge mistake, and in their embarrassment, Roscosmos quickly took down the photos and fashioned some blankets from leftover materials. Imagine dealing with a problem like this just when everything is ready to go. It only shows the incompetence of many Russian space engineers and workers. Nauka means science in Russian. Nauka has been in development for quite a time, longer than you might think. We can trace back the efforts to launch Nauka back to 2007. You can trace the roots back to TKS, a transport ship developed in the 1960s and 70s by the space pioneer Vladimir Shalomey. However, every time the project came near launch, a technical issue came up, delaying it. Budget problems did little to help the case. With the picture looking like this, this, many people thought that Nauka might never leave the Earth's atmosphere, but Roscosmos was in no mood to see decades of efforts go down the drain. By some magic, they managed to scrape up the project and get it launched earlier in July. Nauka was designed to host the space for science experiments and anchor visiting vehicles. It is also supposed to serve as a gateway for spacewalks. It is complete with a workshop, attachment points for external payloads, an airlock, a glove box for experiments, and a European-built robotic arm that will allow cosmonauts to install equipment outside the station. The robotic arm is the first of its kind on a Russian spacecraft. In addition to the technological marvels, the spacecraft promises more comfort and ease for the cosmonauts up there, with more sleeping space and a new toilet with a sophisticated water recycling system. They would definitely love that, wouldn't they? There is no doubt that Russia's space program is not looking as strong as we'd like it to. With that said, Russia's future participation in the International Space Station comes into question. Sadly, the rumors are not painting a bright picture. Word on the street is that Russia might pull out of the ISS. Officials have said the orbiting hardware is decades old and is currently beyond repair. Rather than working on a soon-to-be broken machine, Russians would like to direct their efforts to build a brand new space station. With that said, there is a chance that Russians might pull out of the program as early as 2025. According to proposed plans for the future space station, it would be relatively small and only occasionally visited by cosmonauts. Officials intend for it to fly over the strategically important Arctic region. The new orbit could also be easily reached by crew vehicles and cargo ships. These ships could be launched from Russia instead of from Kazakhstan, and is done for vehicles bound for the ISS. Clearly, the new orbit promises Russia more benefits. With such a rosy picture painted out of them, we can expect them to not add any more modules to the ISS. However, reports say Roscosmos has still kept the next module, Prisha. It is intended to launch in November of this year. Let's see how that one goes, hopefully without any incidents. Russia has another module in the works too. The Science and Power Module, or NEM, is an upgraded version of Nauka and will help make the Russian segment of the ISS genuinely independent from the rest of the station in terms of flight control and supplies. However, there are a few rumors that Russia intends to keep NEM in orbit, but nothing is set in stone at the moment. We'll have to wait and find out. And that's all we have for you folks. The Russian space program seems to be running into quite several problems. However, we hope that they get their head back in the game soon. After all, we need all hands on deck if we venture out on space. Do you think Russia can manage that? Do you think they'll build their space station soon? Do you think they can pull it off? Hash it all out in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check the playlist in our description.